is not wanting to have a kid selfish from a biological animal perspective?
I don't think it's selfish because it's a decision that people make, a conscious decision that people make to have kids. I feel that it's a decision that needs to be taken more seriously because there are people out there that have kids that should not have kids because they're not able to provide. For me to have a kid, I would want to be married first because I want to have that stable relationship before even thinking about having kids. And it would be more so my husband wanting to have kids than me because I grew up in a large family. I've always been around kids. I don't have the desire to be around babies. I've, been there, done that.
You don't like babies?
I didn't say that's okay. That's the problem. You're twisting words around. I didn't say I don't like babies. I said I've been around babies, so I've had that experience being around small children, and it's ran its course. But that what we're discussing, the other thing we're discussing is I said jokingly that if I knew my kid was going to be successful, then I wouldn't have a problem having a child. Let's leave it at that.
That's kind of wild though, because what if you had a kid and they weren't like this mega billionaire, millionaire, or even successful?
I have a question for you. Okay, let me put a question for you.
Yeah.
Let's just say that you knew 100% your child was going to be born with some sort of medical
disability
defect
or something. Yeah,
would you still choose to have that child? Would that change your decision? And if you knew that they would be suffering their entire life?
That's a very tough question because your alternative is what? Aborting the child? Giving it up for adoption?
Or not having a child.
But how would I know? Like, I do a test before and they say like, oh, based on your sperm and her egg, like the child would be XYZ?
Yeah, let's just say in that scenario. Even before she gets pregnant, they say 100% that your child's going to have this birth defect and they're not going to recover from it and they're going to suffer their entire life. Do you still want to go ahead with it?
I believe that like in order for us to survive as a species, we have to reproduce. And this modern like narrative that like, oh, like having kids, blah, 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 it's a choice. Like it's a necessity if you can do it. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like you have that responsibility, not to you, but to the human species. And I feel like when women say, oh, I don't want to have kids, or, I have to be with someone who knows that I don't want kids, it's pretty selfish.
Mm-hmm. That's one way to look at it. But again, it's a decision, right? Like a woman has the right to do what she wants with her body. And if she chooses not to have a kid for her own personal reasons, whether it be selfish or not, it's better for her to go ahead and not have the kid than have the kid because being pressured to and then being in a situation where she can't handle it. You hear stories of women having not post-traumatic stress.
Postpartum depression.
There we go. You hear stories of women having that and maybe she was pressured into having the child, and then that led to that. So
I do think there has to be consent. Like the woman has to want the child, the man has to want the child, but I don't think we should trivialize childbirth. Like it is. Every person, every child born is special, whether or not they're going to be a billionaire, whether they have disabilities, like life is still life. And I don't think that because most women that don't want kids will say, I don't want to do that to my body. You don't understand. You don't have to. This girl's like, you don't have to carry the baby. You're speaking from a man's perspective.
True. Facts.
Okay, but
facts.
I'm not the one with the uterus.
And that's my fault. Like I was born
with. That's
not
my fault. No, that's what I'm saying. Like
you say it like that, like it's my fault. Like I chose that.
No, but that tells you every body part has a function.
Oh God, here we go. And
every body part has a function.
Every body part has multiple purposes for each body part.
So what is the function of a uterus?
And I was gonna check Google, but then you asked me another question.
But it's pretty self-evident that the uterus is mostly. I might even be wrong when I say this. So
a question for you. Okay.
No. Listen.
No, let me before I forget.
Go ahead. Ladies first.
So you're saying, okay, a woman's purpose is to give birth, right?
Not like the only purpose in their lives, but yeah.
What are the top five?
The female anatomy.
The top three.
The female anatomy is set up in a way to, facilitate childbirth.
Okay, so are you saying that women should pop out babies like rabbits?
Not like rabbits, but I think if you're in a good situation, you should aspire to have kids, just like men should aspire to have kids in a family.
And so if someone is an unfit parent, like she goes out partying, drinking, smoke, all that stuff, sleep with multiple men, she should still, her purpose is to have kids.
Now that's a good argument because like you said, there are degenerates that have kids, but sometimes those tough situations can create a very tough child that can achieve a lot of good things. And everything is, I believe in destiny. So I feel like everything's meant to happen. You know what I'm saying? And maybe that's because I have a religious or spiritual kind of like understanding of the world. That's my lens. You know what I'm saying? Not everyone might have that lens, but I think, yeah, like whether or not you're like a billionaire having a kid or someone who's like on food stamps, you'll be able to figure it out.
I don't agree with that.
Humans have survived through much tougher times than we have and that we are going through right now.
If you're struggling, why would you want your kid to struggle? If you're barely making it, why would you want to bring a kid into this world that's barely making it?
So you think poor people shouldn't have kids?
Don't even. No. No. I did not say that. I'm just saying.
How about these people in other countries that all of them are struggling? They just shouldn't have kids? You sound like Bill Gates.
I didn't say that. This is an attack. I'm sorry. I did not say that, okay? I just said that you have to think about your child and not be selfish. Like if you're in a position where you know you cannot care for a child, or you can only care for one child and you have 3 or 4 or 5, wouldn't you say that's selfish?
No.
What about for a check?
Oh, well, now I know you're talking about how in Canada, I think in other countries they do this too.
Yeah, I think in other countries they
get paid to have kids,
right,
and you get a check per year per each kid.
Right.
And I think the reason they're doing that is because we need to have kids. Why else would the government pay for us to have kids? So that's another incentive to have kids. You know what I'm saying? Passive income. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to do Bitcoin. You can just have a kid.
Right.
Your Bitcoin returns are not going to be as much as having a kid. And once you have a couple, you just reuse the clothes.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah, or sell them, right?
Yeah. So how many kids would you have?
0. Like I said, unless I get married or unless I know my child's going to be successful, I don't want to have kids.
How are you going to know your child's going to be successful?
I'm not going to know. That's why I'm not going to have kids. You can't predetermine that, right?
Okay, so if you can never know if your child's going to be successful unless you actually have a kid, that's not a good argument. So you want to be married first. That's really the main thing.
Yeah, that's definitely the main thing, yeah.